This is Fright Night for the Commodore Amiga, released by Microdeal Limited back in 1998. I found this title stumbling through one of those websites that has abandoned games on it, and I was happy to give it a try because I'm a huge fan of the movie this is based on. Fright Night was an exceptional horror movie from the 1980s that does a lot of things right in my eyes. There was eventually a remake, and that was fine too, but this was from the first one. The movie is about a vampire that moves into a house next to a high school student. The student, Charlie, is the main character, and he notices that there is a vampire suddenly living next door. The plot of the film is how he deals with the problem. It's great. I was excited to experience this adventure myself, so I loaded the game, and I quickly realized this was not what I was hoping for. This was a disappointing experience. If I'd played this back in the 1980s as a little kid, I would still have been bummed. Graphics were great, yes. And I know this was from a different era. I mean, the game came on 3¼ inch floppy disks, so it was kind of slow to load. But it still seems like they only got sort of half of the job done here. Obviously, there are many parts that make up a good video game, but back in the 80s, I think two of the most important things were graphics and gameplay. Some combination of those two. Stories didn't always work, so graphics and gameplay. If a game was lacking in either one of these, it probably would stand out to me. We're talking back in 1988, so this was after Super Mario Bros. Was out on the NES. And if we compare the two, yeah, maybe the graphics aren't better in Super Mario Bros., but they were competent, and it handled fantastic. You knew what you were getting. The gameplay was so good and smooth there. How would you ever want to go backwards to anything else? Fright Night has the graphics, certainly, but it doesn't have the gameplay. Not at all. And it kind of stings a little more considering the basis of the game. You're not actually playing the hero character here. You're not playing Charlie. You're playing the vampire. Fright Night was an awesome adventure. I want to defeat the vampire, not be him. Why would I ever want that? So instead of that type of an adventure, I end up with an arcade-style game that I guess looks great, but it isn't fun to play. Strangely enough, the game loads to an awesome introduction screen. The pixel graphics look amazing, and they mimic the movie poster of the film. I was super excited to see this, and we also get some spoken audio. It was great. It would have been awesome to see in 1988, but that's kind of where the excitement ends for me. You are the head vampire. You're this gigantic sprite on screen. You take up more than half of the real estate with your height. You have minor animations as you're standing or walking about, but you still feel relatively stiff. Many games from this time didn't have a ton of movement to begin with, or animation, so I guess I can't really fault it for that, but it definitely feels stiff. You have a section of the screen at the bottom too, and that displays your health. And we're talking, actually, it's like a bar that takes up 20% of the screen. This is big banner. And this also wasn't uncommon for games from that time. It shows a picture of your head, and as you take damage, it rots, which I think is the terrible way to do it, because I don't know how far it's going to take for me to die, really. It would have been so much easier to have a bar, or just to have even a number. But instead we get a face. Okay. There's also a moon and sun meter that changes as you progress. This is the ticking clock of the game. If the sun comes up, time runs out, you will rot and die, because you're a vampire. And we also get a score and the words Fright Night repeat on screen to, I suppose, remind us that we're playing Fright Night. I don't know. In retrospect, it's kind of ridiculous. But a lot of PC games did this at the time. It was on Commodore all the time, and I think it was a memory-saving tactic, actually. With the larger static banner at the bottom, or mostly static, there's less art you need to design for the gameplay area, and it saves on resources, I think. I get it. I mean, not unusual, like I said. The goal here is super basic. You walk around. You eat people in your house. And you get back to your coffin before sunrise. Strangely enough, you start out with a house that only has 2 floors on it, I think. And when you defeat and go into the next stage, the house gets bigger. And the maze is a little larger. All you're doing is walking through rooms to find people. And then you walk up to them. And you feast on them. You don't even press a button to do it. It just happens when you run up to them. When you find the people in your house, the graphics are great. I mean, these clearly represent the characters that I saw in the movie. I recognize them no problem. But getting to them is like an effort in patience. It's so frustrating. The game is also configured to use only one button, and it stinks, because the A500 controller I'm playing this on has 6. I did some research into the Amiga because I didn't have one when I was a kid. It was generally a mouse-run computer, but it did have a controller that had at least 1 or 2 buttons. Okay, the A500 Mini, I guess, was for the CD32 games you might play. So, unfortunate, I have a controller that has 6 buttons, and I can only use 1 on a game, and it also uses that button badly. All you can do in this game, you move left to right, you go up and down if there's a staircase, and if you press the button and up at the same time, you will jump. You press the button and down at the same time, you duck, but if you press the button by itself, it seems to do nothing. It's a frustrating control scheme. Jump should be the 1 button alone. That's it. It would have been better if this was also, if you could push left or right in the button, as opposed to like up or up at an angle in the button. It's just kind of awkward. The first stage is pretty simple anyway. You just walk through each room. You see a person standing there, just walk up to them, and as a vampire, you're going to do what comes naturally and just eat them. On the other levels, they introduce spirits floating around that you have to dodge, and there are also these spectral hands that reach up from the floor to try to grab you. Both of these were not in the movie. They're just random obstacles they put in to try and flush out a game. I don't think it works. I think they're just tedious. And also, if you get hit by a ghost or step on one of these hands, it's not like the animations interact with you. You just kind of walk into them and you see your health drain. And it seems to drain a lot of your health. It just feels really unbalanced in this regard. And that's the basis of the game. You walk around, you dodge, you basically dodge, and you eat intruders. You're trying to survive a full week, I think, but that also means you're going to eat the same people for days and days in a row. Doesn't make sense to me, but it is a game that's, 30 years old at this point, 35 years. And games back then were not built on templates or sometimes even logic. That era felt like the Wild Wild West to me. Everyone was trying to do something different in their own thing, hoping for the next Grand Slam. But not all games panned out as amazing or groundbreaking. For me, this one ended up being super boring and monotonous, and I'm kind of surprised I managed to speak about it this much. I really wanted to play Fright Night as the hero, not the villain. And that is all I have today for Fright Night for the Commodore Amiga. Thanks for stopping by for a look, and I hope to catch you on another video.